Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and thank you so much for coming back. I also want to thank you, that one subscriber that decided it was absolutely necessary to subscribe to my channel. I'm really pleased, and I was very excited, like a kid, to be honest. So shout out to you. I don't know who you are, but I'm hoping you are having the best day of your life, and just know that you are actually appreciated very much. Thank you. It has been a while since I posted my last blog. It's been around like 3 weeks or something, and I think a small update would be a good way to continue my storyline about my mental health issues, my way of dealing with them, because this blog will specifically cover the most recent episode that I've been through. So in my previous blogs, I covered the fact that I have been on a downward spiral with my depression. I found it extremely hard to do like anything at all. For some days I just decided that it would be best to just stay in bed because I wasn't feeling like doing anything at all. And while by the time of my last blog I was already sort of getting out of that downward spiral, sometimes it's like an earthquake. An earthquake happens, and once it passes, it doesn't mean that it's fully over. Sometimes there might be multiple aftershocks happening, which are like smaller scale earthquakes. And usually the more violent the main earthquake is, the more sizable or noticeable the aftershocks will be. Well, apparently I have encountered and aftershocks of anxiety / panic attacks as well. I randomly started, and I don't know, was it like a panic attack or just like a severe anxiety attack? I started one on Thursday, and it is pretty much till like yesterday and today that it lasted. So like 3 long days of anxiety attacks with like waves of improvement and then going back down. That was really tough. And it also happened that it overlapped with a reflux moment, which I'm not a stranger to because I have a pretty long history with pancreatitis and gastritis, thanks to the stress and my poor eating choices. So this was probably the longest anxiety attack I've ever had, and it was just insane. I was having like chest pains, because like not even chest pains, more like heaviness, which is normal for like acute reflux. Yeah. But chest tightness can also happen with anxiety attacks, like you physically can't breathe. And my breathing was all right. I could breathe. It was just the general chest heaviness. And the anxiety like was so bad that I was really thinking it was just a heart attack. That's how bad it was, because I was so anxious. I really don't remember if I ever experienced anything like this. However, again, I have a history with anxiety attacks as well. So thankfully today, there is still some sort of an anxiety, but I'm just trying to push it back. I'm trying to kick its ass because, it's not fun to be suffering so much that it literally disables you to do anything because you're so anxious. And it wasn't that my hands were physically shaking or I was shaking, or like, it was that overwhelming feeling of doom in your life that was literally paralyzing. And I was like walking around the house, I was in some sort of like a prostration. That was just terrible. So thankfully it seems to be over by now, but anxiety still seems to try to crawl its way back in, which happens to me a lot because I'm quite experienced with anxiety attacks and overthinking. That's just the worst thing you can do with anxiety, but sometimes you can't help it. I was thinking about actually trying to help myself. Obviously, if I suddenly felt much worse, I would have had no choice but to go to hospital. But thankfully, I managed to deal with that. So, in my case, what has helped was that when having an anxiety attack, I often check my pulse because I'm always concerned about the way my heart works. And obviously, if the heart rate is like too much, then it may not necessarily be just an anxiety attack. It could be like a cardiac event, which is already like a big concern. So apparently, if you keep checking on your breathing, if you keep checking on your heart pace during an anxiety attack, this is what keeps that loop going. So it's very important. It is hard, but it is also very important if you're like me, if you tend to check your heart rate, your breathing every once in a while when you're having an anxiety attack, just know that it will keep the loop going instead of breaking it. So as hard as it sounds, it's very actually helping not to check it. Because when you don't check, oh, am I breathing? Is it normal? Is it okay? Is it not? My heart rate was elevated, but it was within the normal active range. It wasn't nothing like I have experienced before. And back in 2019, I first, I think, encountered a tachycardia event, and it was a recurrent event for me within a short period of time. So this was nothing like that. My heart rate was within an absolute normal range, but I kept checking it because what if it gets worse? The problem is when you are in an anxiety attack, when you check in on heart rate and you're like me, you know that it's still within the normal range, but you think, oh, it's a little too fast. It what keeps the loop going because you think, oh, it's a little bit elevated, I need to calm down. And then you sort of push your brain, which is already completely overwhelmed and overloaded, you push it even harder to try to calm yourself down, and it backfires at you, and it makes things worse. Not just with your brain, but in your heart rate. So you're trying to decrease the pace to sort of, calm down. But what happens is you increase it because it backfires on you, because your brain is overloaded. It's overly strained already, trying to process all of that and trying to calm on its own. And you just add pressure to it, you just add load, so you need to stop doing that. This was one thing that was both hard and not much, because at that point, feeling that bad, I was ready to try really anything. So this helped a lot. I could still feel that anxiety in my chest. I still felt my breathing, my heart rate. I just tried not to concentrate it and not to check it every 5 to 10 minutes. Another thing that tremendously helped was crying. Because when you cry, you actually release those stress hormones, and especially if the cry is long enough. For different people it's different length, but if it's like a sincere cry that you don't hold back onto, it helps to release the stress hormones, and it helps to very effectively and quite quickly to decrease the intensity of your anxiety attack. And this what has helped me a lot. I still have a lot of issues, like copious amount of mental issues, and there are events and things from my past that are still like a luggage that's pulling me down. It's like a burden in my own brain, and I still haven't processed it. I still haven't worked through it. So it's still there. It's still pulling me down. And obviously when you're having an anxiety attack, those sometimes embarrassing, sad, angry moments, they come to the surface, and they are intensified 10-20 times, so it actually makes things worse. So getting rid of them and processing them correctly, letting go of them, would be safe thing to do to prevent the severity of anxiety attacks in future, if if not to prevent them entirely. So yeah, I did have a couple of big cries, I would say. Normally I would call them breakdowns, but it was really the much needed release, especially after the second one. I actually felt so much better. I felt completely drained. but it has helped me so much. And this anxiety attack was also a bit unusual because for a couple of days I was sitting, for example, sitting at the computer, like watching a video and maybe scrolling or doing something on my phone, and suddenly, like completely out of nowhere, a wave of like rage would come over me, and I would get pissed with literally everything. I do the wrong click, I would literally explode. And those rage waves came literally out of nowhere, and they were so sudden. They were super sudden to start, but they drained as suddenly as they started, which was something unusual because usually they last longer than that, but they also left me completely drained. I'm trying not to get angry or even pissed. However, pissed still happens a lot. Anger, not so much. I do try to control it as much as I can because it just leaves me completely drained, like physically and emotional. After getting angry with something, I would be just crashing out entirely. And so when you're in the middle of an anxiety attack and you have this isn't helping. However, I only had a couple of episodes like that. They did not help, but luckily, pretty much since was Wednesday, Thursday, I think that I had those anger attacks. Yeah, but not really since then. I can still occasionally get pissed over something that, like, I mistyped something, or I clicked one thing and the other thing clicked on instead, That can be a bit annoying, to be honest, but again. So, yeah, and after a second cry that I had on Saturday, I felt the same level of being drained and exhausted, but that one brought me peace. I actually managed to calm down. I was still feeling very down because after a good cry, it can feel physically much better because it's like pouring out some of the weight from your heart, from your shoulders, from your life. So you may still feel physically much lighter, but it can be a huge emotional thing, and emotionally I was entirely drained, but like I've said, it also gave me peace. It also largely decreased that doom feeling inside, and that, if I can maybe describe it, if your heart rate is within range when you're having an anxiety attack, you may still feel like you have some sort of internal shaking or trembling, especially in your chest, that sometimes if you also have like muscle vascular issues like I have, it may also radiate in my arms, make my arms feel weak, make my legs feel weak, make my head feel weak. So it happens. It's still part of the problem which I'm working on. So, I was extremely drained, but it was all for better. And so yesterday I still had the anxiety aftershocks, but pretty much Saturday and Sunday were the first 2 days throughout the whole attack and symptoms that came before it, when I didn't feel like I was completely drained. I understand that it could be like overlap in circumstances. It was like acid reflux, obviously. I had stomach pains. It was anxiety attack. It was also a change of weather here and change in the air pressure, which also caused a bit of blood pressure issues for me. I'm quite weather sensitive, especially moments like that. But at least I'm out of it, and I also understand that a lot of the times, which is probably the most important thing, a lot of the times when I say that I hate living like this, it doesn't mean that I hate my life the way I live it right now to actually change something about that. It is that exactly those acute moments that I hate, but it's just those moments, it's not the whole life. And that life that I keep living keeps getting me to those anxiety attacks, and this was by far the worst one. And I'm still in pursuit of my mental health appointments because it's taking like really a lot of time. I will still have to follow up this week to find out what I can do, what can be done in the closest time possible, because obviously, even though the stress levels are coming down, obviously not fast enough, and maybe it's piling up faster than it goes down if it caused me such an intense breakdown. I would still say that I made quite a lot of progress since I moved here, because like the good and the bad thing about stress is that the good thing for me since I moved here, which is almost 7 months now, the good thing is that I was taken out, or like pulled out of the environment of like imminent death threat, when you have rockets and drones flying over your head, and obviously you never know where they're going to land, when they are going to be intercepted, and where they will land then. So there's always that sense of threat hanging over your head. So I was pulled out of that environment, and so that was a huge part of my overall stress taken out. But I can't say that the stress, I'm living a completely stressless life here. No, there is still stresses of everyday life and decisions I have to make. And one thing we know already by now is that the hardest thing for any human to do is to change, because naturally the human brain, human mentality will be opposing any changes, because any change comes with a certain sense of unknown. And normally, as a self-preservation, humans normally choose just staying somewhere where they're comfortable, where they're known. That's why a lot of family with abuse issues, with domestic violence issues, the victims of domestic violence and abuse still tend to stay with the abusers in those families, because getting out would mean getting out into the unknown. There's just so much uncertainty for them. And I understand it can be hard, but this is really a point of whether you want to live like this for the rest of your life, or whether you would risk a little bit and take a chance to find a better life. So it's, pretty much the same for me. My brain is still opposing any changes, and I know I should be moving around more, I should be doing more. This would definitely help to keep my anxiety down at bay. This would help me to get healthier general, because I'm also considering myself pre-diabetic, because I don't move around much. I don't use the energy, I don't build any muscles, and I'm over 30 years old, so the risk of getting diabetes is getting higher. So if I don't do anything, there's a high chance that I will end up with even more health issues. So I made this decision yesterday that I will try to actually push myself just a little bit, but maybe not every day, because not every day is a good day. Some days they're meant to be bad, because even a bad day is still some sort of experience. It is meant to happen, because everything perfect would be very boring. So you need to have those bad days, like you need to have stress in your life. Because the bad thing about stress is that if you don't control it, it can quickly get so much worse. But if you control it, stress can be a powerful tool for your body and your brain to learn how to deal with it better. So having stress and having bad days in your life are actually quite crucial. It's like for the small kids, when they're born, their immune system is mostly protected by their mother, but their mother's milk and care cannot fully protect them from everything. And when they get their first serious sort of sickness or disease, this is when you actually introduce them to meds to help manage the symptoms, but at the same time, this is when their immune system kicks in and learns about disease, what damage it does to the body, and it learns to cope with it. It develops antibodies. This is why getting sick is also very important. You should never protect your kid at all costs from all dust particles, because they are never going to be healthy. Same thing with stress, except stress, in severe cases, it damages the whole of your body, not just your brain. It damages the whole of your body, it weakens your organs a lot. And I have been through that. So instead of succumbing to stress, I want to learn to live with it, to be able to control it, to manage it, but never really to eradicate that, because I need to know how to deal with it more. Because anxiety attack is one thing, but when there is a real reason for an anxiety attack, like something so devastating happens in your life that you just don't know how to do, if you know at least the basics how to manage stress, that will be very helpful. I do want to change my life, because this anxiety attack was scary for me. Like, it was really scary, because I was really thinking I was having a cardiac event. And therefore, I will try to just do more with my life a little bit every day. Maybe, like, not every day. There will be still a lot of resistance from my own brain, but training bit by bit, getting used to more activity, so to say, will train my brain to be less resistant and be more cooperative, especially if I can find a way to make unpleasant, like, for example, chores, if I can find a way to make them more pleasant. For example, listening to music while doing the chores, it makes them go faster. So this is all about training my brain to deal with the stress, to deal with the damage from the stress, and to also to train my body to be stronger, healthier, more controllable, so I can live a happier life. Thank you so much for staying with me till the end. That was a bit of an important and a bit of a painful update, because I'm still sort of reliving that in my brain, talk about overthinking again. Yeah, but thank you so much for staying with me, for supporting me, for just at least watching a little bit of the blog. Maybe it will help you to shift your perspective on your anxiety and stress, or maybe on some other things that you are going through in your life right now. I'm happy to help as much as I can. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!